Okay, so I told you guys I was going to this place called Cantigny. It's really Cantigny, but here's all that footage. It's very educational, but it's still pretty good. I'd like to mention that between that first picture and the next one, I slipped down some stairs and cracked my head on a lot of things on the way down.
It used to be the estate of a guy named Robert McCormick. Robert McCormick was the president, the owner, and the editor of the Chicago Tribune Company from 1911 to 1955. He said, "We're at war, I have a duty, send me." This is the French War, the name of a little village. And in that little village in France, the first American battle of World War I took place. And that was the first time that Americans fought for the freedom of Europe, and we're still in Europe. That battle was also the first battle in the history of the 1st Infantry Division. And we call the 1st Infantry Division the 1st Division because it's America's 1st Division. Well, before World War I, we didn't have divisions. President Wilson promised the Allies when we entered World War I in 1917, "I will send you a division immediately." Mr. Secretary, I just told these people we would have a division in France in a month. Make it happen. Yes, sir. I misunderstood. You were the 1st Division. Get on the boats. We're going to France.
This was recreated from pictures that we had as we built Cantigny afterwards. This is a tiny village. It's about 200 people actually live in Cantigny. There's actually about that many still live in Cantigny right now. Now, if you look up, you can see the farmhouse is burning. We've got artillery damage. A lot of artillery was fired on the city before the 28th Infantry Regiment goes in to take it. You can see what no man's land would look like. Remember, World War I is mostly fought out of trenches. You have a lot of trench workers, so that was the land between the two trenches. You've got the infantry and the tank working together. It's very seldom you would have had huge tank battles in World War I. Tanks are mainly used for infantry. Weapons are not on the front, it's actually on the side. It's a 37mm machine gun. Trench warfare, you want to be able to cross the trench, but then shoot down the line of the trench. In the real trench, remember, you could be standing knee-deep in mud. Any elements are going to affect it. These are dirty, stinky, smelly places, rats, lice. Wood is here to support it because if artillery fire hits this, you don't want it to collapse in. There were actually cases of trenches collapsing in and units just getting buried alive. The scorpions overhead have the barbed wire. That's because everyone saw there would be trench raids, and if someone came in, you didn't want them to be able to drop right into your trench. And that's also why it's dug in a zigzag, because obviously you never want someone to be able to shoot all the way down the line of a trench. Now up ahead you can see there's some telephone wires, and that's because radio is so new at this point it couldn't really be used under fire. If you were in the signal corps, this was your job. You had to go out and string the wire back through no man's land to your command post or to a switchboard, and that's how you would communicate. So if telephone wire got cut either by sabotage or artillery and you were a wireman, your job was to go back out and find where that break was, repair it, or restring it. So it was actually a really dangerous job in World War I to be a signal corps guy who had to handle the wire. Right now you're standing in an underground bunker. In reality, this would be far removed from the trench. And you can see this is where that telephone wire would have been strung to, so it would have been strung through no man's land, back to kind of a command post like you see here. And if you have to be anywhere near the front, this is probably going to be your safest place to be. It's still going to be just as dirty and disgusting. When we have rats, we have one here. He's very small. Not alive. But he's very small. For World War I rat, they would there are oral histories where they talk about him being almost as big as cats. But unfortunately, the rats would feed on the body. This was right out of a soldier's hand if he wasn't paying attention. 10 million men and women died in World War I. That's why at the end they figured this would never happen again. They called it the war to end all wars in the Great War. Here in 1918, people really think that this is not going to happen again. They figure we're going to be smarter. We're not going to go to war like this. Unfortunately, we all know World War II is on a larger scale and a lot more people are going to be killed. We've got up there Sergeant Blinsky. He's based on an actual platoon sergeant. We won't press the button because he doesn't come up like a drill sergeant. Every time we have groups of veterans here, he'll tell us he's the nicest platoon sergeant you ever heard. You go that way and you decide you're not going to listen, you go the other way, and someone's going to end up killed. That's why they tell you that once the word bounce off the best. They're not that concerned about what it looks like. It's that you follow those directions and you were disciplined enough to do what they told you. A lot of times we have school kids here, they don't realize, I don't listen to my teacher, oh well, I might get his attention. We don't listen on the battlefield, really bad things. This is a German anti-tank gun. This was captured by the Americans, North Africa. When you think about D-Day or any other amphibious assault, it's not just the troops you have to land. everything you are going to need to fight a war, whether it's jeeps, tanks, food, ammo, anything that you can think of that you will need to fight a war. There's got to be a way that they can get it by ship there or drop it from the air. If anyone was going to be leading the U.S. invasion of Europe, it was going to be Patton. They figured they wouldn't go without him. So they stationed him up there, put out those dummy tanks, and sent fake transmissions out. So when we actually attack on D-Day, they assume this is a decoy. It's not until later in the day that they realize that this is the actual invasion. They're still waiting for the real invasion to come. So that guy coming down had to be careful for two things. That when he dropped down, he didn't drop down while the boat was coming up on the wave because it was breaking his leg. The other problem was soldiers falling in between the Navy ships and the landing craft. They might be let out from water that's 8 feet high, and they're wearing about 75 pounds of equipment. A lot of guys either end up drowning or had to get their equipment off. Normally they're out there on the high ground. They're trying to get up these bluffs up there to stop the machine guns and the rifles. These are barrage balloons. These were used to try and protect from any German aircraft. The Americans, for the most part, had air superiority that day, so it wasn't a huge problem, but they were designed to hover. There are huge helium balloons that were held with a cable. And what would happen is if any German aircraft did try and come by, they'd have to fly over, because if they tried to fly through, they'd hit those cables and tear off the wing, and it also cause an explosion. So that was to help protect any of our supplies coming in. And this is actually the unit that did this is the only African-American unit that lands on D-Day.
Hope you guys weren't too bored by the educational value of today's video, but I thought that was pretty good. There's a lot more that I edited out actually, but for that full video you can click the link in the sidebar or go back through and click it on the actual video. And if you actually want to see the rest of it, just comment me or something. I still have all the footage, so I'll see you guys later.